Cindy and Michael from Part-Time Permies, and if you're watching right now, watching after the show, we're just going to wait for a few people to come in and join us for this live show. So we'll give it a minute or two for people to join up, and give me a minute to pull it up on my computer. So have a lot of things coming. Our herb of the week this week is turmeric, so we'll be discussing that. We have a collaboration going, so we'll be going over that a little bit, and some other things going on around the house. So we'll give people a few minutes to join in. And you have a ton of projects, always.
Mostly work projects right now.
Work projects, yeah. I think we have at least one other person in the room, so we'll give people a couple minutes here. And welcome to whoever's in here listening. Cindy and Mike from Part-Time Permies, and we're going to be going over things in just a minute or two. Let people catch up to us. My computer keeps wanting to refresh, but that's all right. Okay. Let's see if we get, I think we have another person in here. If you say hello, just let me know. Make sure you can hear me. That would be great. And we'll see where things go. Seems to be a little bit of a delay on the feed tonight. I'm not sure what that is about, but hopefully it won't be too bad. Okay. Our internet here tends to be a little slow, so we're using their cell phone again. Hopefully down the road we'll be able to switch that over to some better service, but we got a few people joining us. Hello, I see things bouncing around, so I'm hoping that the feed is working all right. You just give me a little heads up if there's any issues on your end, that would be great. The feed keeps resetting itself a little bit on our computer. Welcome. I see 5 people in the room. So hopefully we'll get a few more and get some chats going. Just to give you a heads up, we're going to be doing this week's herb of the week, which is turmeric, and some other things that we have going on. So just giving this a chance to set up here. So, oh, there's Deborah. Hello. Deborah Smith, welcome. We're just going to let a few people join in and before we get started. So hope everyone in the room has had a good week this week. We've had some crazy weather over the last week or so, but that's Michigan for you. But I think half the country's had some crazy weather, so. So we have Deborah. I do think we have a few more people joining in.
Well, let's get started.
Yeah, I think we have 6 people in the room, so we'll just get going. So just in general information first, for those of you guys who have your own YouTube channels, cold in Illinois, definitely here too. And Finite World's here. Hello. Now we do have some collaborations going with YouTube channels. The main thing we've hosted is the Winter Farmstead Cooking Challenge. So we're hoping to have some YouTube channels join us on that. So far, we put up a video, other than the announcement video of that, we've put up a video, and Rose from Wholesome Roots put up a video as a part of that as well. So we're hoping, I have had about a half dozen other channels say that they're going to join us on that, and it's basically The whole idea is to focus on food that was either harvested on the homestead, preserved foods, basically winter cooking of things that you grew or you preserved and things along those lines. Kind of help people keep ideas of how to keep their cooking local, or what they've done. So we did one that was on marinara sauce. So we had a ton of frozen tomatoes, and so Mike did his cooking magic on the frozen tomatoes and made marinara sauce.
I think you just posted the recipe for that
yesterday? Yeah. So if you did originally watch that video when it first went up, then there's now a recipe that's posted in the comments that wasn't originally there. So if you're interested in that, feel free to take a look. And look who showed up. It's Wholesome Roots. Hi, Wholesome Roots. She has provided the other video that's in our playlist so far and did a Portuguese kale soup, which looked really good. So how's the feed going? Let me just double check on that with you guys. Is the feed all right tonight? It looks to keep refreshing on our end, so. But that, of course, might be our internet connection, because our internet connection is not great.
It's been terrible the last day and a half.
Okay. Good. Glad to know it's going all right there. So basically what we're doing is we're broadcasting through Verizon on the cell phone, but watching the chat on the computer primarily because it's easier to watch there. Yes, Wholesome Roots, we're going to be talking about turmeric, and you're going to be growing some in the spring. Awesome. We're going to try growing some, I think. We can't grow it outdoors here. We don't have a long enough season. It has to be, I think, above 65 to grow. It really needs some warmer climate. So definitely down in Georgia, I think probably have better luck than we would, but we're going to try it in pots. So, Rose, no, we're using our cell phone. So we're using YouTube through the cell phone through Verizon wireless. So I have not been able to use OBS or Hangouts to do our live shows, only because our internet is super slow. So the Verizon connection is a lot better. So we've been using that as our connection. And if we can upgrade our internet at some point, we're in the process of trying to find a better company. But when we moved here, we were told there was only one company that supplied internet to our house.
There's about another 75 houses that are either in or going in less than a mile down the road. So the good news is there's incentive to get better service out here. The bad news is they're sucking everything off of the cable line right now before it gets to us.
Yeah, we're kind of the end of our line. So that's given us a challenge, which also means that when I watch the video itself, it keeps refreshing. So I try to ignore that on my computer. But on my cell phone, as long as you guys are seeing things fine, that's the important thing. But yes.
Got a new computer up this week.
Did get a new computer, and in fact, it was kind of my combined Christmas presents, because basically all the flat gifts of checks and things I put towards the computer. So I did upgrade my computer from my 8-year-old computer, which was it was a good computer when we got it. But it was kind of old. So that was another thing I was trying to do, because editing videos in Adobe Premiere sucks. All the, memory, it just slows down the computer like crazy. So I'm looking forward to editing on my new computer and checking that out. But that literally just finished all its updates within, I think, 15 minutes of going live. So I am set up on my new computer, but that was a little nerve-wracking to see. We were about to use Mike's laptop instead of my computer, but we'll work on that. Yes, editing is hard on older computers, but I'm hoping this one would be better. I'm trying to see if I missed anything else. Yes, Wholesome Roots does have live shows. First one was this last Friday. So live shows on Friday nights, 8 o'clock at night, right? So you guys have to check out her live show on Friday nights.
A lot of discussion about goats last Friday.
Well, she's the goat lady.
we were packaging pasta, getting ready for market.
Yeah.
And listening to the live show while finishing stuffing and sealing and weighing bags.
Yep. Yes, Wholesome Roots. I forgot to say that. It's 8 o'clock Eastern time on Friday nights. Wholesome Roots has their live show. So you had a good crowd there. So that was cool. We were packaging pasta on Friday night for Saturday market while trying to listen to the live show on my cell phone. So that might be our new 8 o'clock deal, is packaging and watching your live show at the same time. It does get difficult to comment when you're doing that, but it works. Or keep up with the comments.
Or to get the labels on the right packages in the right places.
I made a couple mistakes I had to fix. But that was
We're
fun.
not always packaging on Friday nights, but if it comes down to the wire and we're getting ready for market and there's things that aren't in package yet, we're packaging.
Yeah. And you had to I was seeing 60 plus people too on that stream. That was awesome, but it does make it very hard to keep up with the chats, because you get all these different side conversations going when there's that many people, and so much easier when there's a handful of people in the room. But that's awesome. So you guys should check out her channel on Friday nights. She has also submitted a video to our challenge, so you got to check that out as well. And the playlist was listed up there by Finite World, so you could click on that if you want to check out our Winter Farmstead Cooking Challenge. Hopefully we'll have a few more people adding videos over the next week or two, and we're going to keep adding to that through the winter, because the whole idea is to try to show people different ideas of what you could do with your preserved food, with what you can harvest in the winter, like Rose did. She harvested her kale and took it in and cooked it, and her carrots. So just basically what you could keep using through the winter. Next year, hopefully, we'll have a winter garden that's going.
Yeah, our hoops have a little bit in them, but they're very slow right now. And we were one less hoop than we had anticipated.
That's true.
Going in before the snow hit.
Yeah. So we have one hoop with a bunch of greens in there, but it makes it a little bit hard because it's out in the garden. We're hoping to have like a front porch greenhouse type setup for next year. Out in the garden also means it's cold out there. They will hold, amazingly, through the frost and everything if you have cold hardy greens like kale or whatnot. And my chat window just went away for some reason. There we go. But the problem is you don't want to harvest them when they're frozen, so you got to wait until it's warm enough to harvest.
We were actually talking to one of the vendors. It's a neighbor to our table at the farmer's market, and she wasn't there last week, and she just has a really small farm garden, does some really nice beans and garlic and some greens and carrots and things. And this week I was asking her, she had such nice undehydrated carrots. I said, wow, are you pulling those still, or are you holding them because they look like they're in such good condition?
Yeah.
And she said, yeah, I'm pulling them. They had a few cracks from being frozen where they'd cracked open, but otherwise they were good and looked really fresh and sweet. And then she had some greens, and she said, the reason we didn't come last week was because it was so cold. It was sub-zero. She goes, I couldn't get in there, and I couldn't harvest anything. It was too cold. It was all frozen, so they just skipped a week of market. Pulled some stuff out today, so. Yeah,
Princess. Oh, hello, Princess. Oh, I think a few other people have arrived. Still, you have collards and that are still green at 13 degrees. Absolutely. We've been down to -10 so far, and we
got mustards. We've kept kales. We've got some costs and romaine type.
I'm not sure how well they are holding up. I have to get in there and check. But we're supposed to be in the 40s next weekend again. So
we held Brussels sprouts one year in New York, and it was a pretty cold winter, a lot of snow. Yeah. The snow is good because it insulates it, but we held Brussels sprouts through almost the entire...
January, February?
We were deep into it by the time we took them out. Yeah.
Brussels sprouts. Do we have some broccoli in that too? It was mainly Brussels sprouts.
We held a long time on some broccoli, and I think we had cauliflower at one point, but that kind of... It rotted out more than it.
I think it was just got too moist under the hoops for that one.
There was too much, it was...
Humidity.
Humidity.
But, so we're going to... need torch to get the carrots out. That's funny. Yeah, in a frozen ground, yeah, you kind of need a little bit of that thaw, but they do end up being really sweet when they get cold, because all those sugars from the grains go down into the root.
Plus, you can always hold them over. If you don't harvest them or they're too small, you can hold them over. It becomes your start for your spring carrots, for an extra large carrot or an early carrot. So there's really no loss in holding your carrots.
Absolutely. And early spring carrots are nice because, again, they tend to be more sweet than the ones you plant in the spring and harvest later. So, yeah, so we're hoping to get more four-season growth up here for the next year. That's one of our goals, and got a few projects to aim towards that. But actually, that brings me to another point. We also received our delivery of seeds from M.I. Gardner. So
about a week ago, or was that Monday?
I
think I was home. It was maybe Monday.
It was maybe Monday. I don't think we had it for last week's show
because I caught the postman happened to be walking past the door when he was walking up.
So we just we put in the order about almost 2 weeks ago, and just received all of those seeds. So I so want to plant them. In fact, we had like almost 60 degrees out, and I was very tempted to go out and plant some of those seeds, but I didn't have enough time because it was during the work week and getting home after dark and very rainy, and I think half the country had that weather. But and I was going to actually do it the day before because it was already almost 50. I want to say it was in the 40s the day before. And it was just misty a little bit, but we still had so much snow on the ground that it was very hard to get into the hoops because the snow was kind of holding the plastic down. Because before that, we had about a foot of snow on the ground. So, and then it went back to being cold again. So, got to wait for next weekend, I guess. But we're starting that back and forth. December itself was pretty darn cold after the first week. But, we're getting to the point where it's not quite so bad. 20s, I find, actually feel better now that we're out of the single digits.
Well, I was running around when we hit the 50s or mid-50s. I was outside briefly.
In T-shirts.
And I was in a T-shirt, and it was perfectly great. So.
Yeah. Anyway, so we have that going. We also wanted to go over our herb of the week, of course, because it's already getting to almost 20 after here. So, chose kind of another spice for the herb of the week. And this I actually chose to go over as turmeric. I chose to go over it and look things up because I've actually had a few people at work bring it up in certain scenarios, mainly when they have family members who are going through radiation therapy for breast cancer and stuff, and they have bad reactions to the radiation therapy. I've heard a few stories about people taking turmeric to reduce that reaction during radiation therapy. So I kind of wanted to look into that further because, there's a lot of newer studies over the last, really over the last 10 years or so. So when I started looking this up, I couldn't even get through all the reviews in the medical literature that were published in 2017 alone. There were I want to say over 70 review articles written summarizing the different studies out there. So there definitely is a lot of information going on, people looking into how to use turmeric, and the main component was within turmeric that makes it yellow is I want to say curcumin. So if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but traditionally it's been used for thousands of years. And that 1870s homestead is here. Hello. So
we saw all of their tons of seeds too, and we were going, well, we're not the only one with a big pile of seeds sitting on our
M.I.
table.
Gardner, yeah. We didn't take a picture and post it, but we have.
This came on Monday, so.
Yeah, we have. We saw your arrival and got the planting itch as well. And Noah's Ark is here. Hello. So we were just starting to go over turmeric, which has been used quite a lot. You've tried liking turmeric, but just don't like it.
It's mild for the most part. It does have a flavor, but
it does have a specific flavor to it.
It's very earthy.
Yeah.
it's not really dirt flavored, but it is earthy, and it does have a mild flavor, but much more mild than ginger and galangal and some of the other things.
Yeah, it's in the same family as ginger and
you
galangal.
can use it as a spice at a pretty high level with almost no flavor in it. It's when you really use a lot that it becomes flavored.
Yeah, the one place I don't like it, and I don't think you like it either, is in the British yellow curry.
Yeah, the cheap American and British pre-made blended yellow curry. It's
the curry powder.
That's yellowed, but because the problem with curry is always going to be kind of a grayish color, so you need to add something to make it look brighter and look more appetizing. So turmeric's typically added for color, if nothing else. In reality, it should be added as a spice to flavor for potential health and well-being. But the traditional old school curry is just awful.
Yeah, that's it's not my favorite either. I mean, I'm probably less adverse to it. Sorry, I'm moving my camera than Mike is, but tried turmeric tea. Oh,
I've heard a lot of people doing turmeric tea, and I haven't had the fresh roots tea, so I've got to try that. We have a bunch here, actually.
Yeah, the interesting thing is it's not extremely water soluble. So part of the issues with the studies I've looked at was that they're trying to find ways. They've done a lot of studies and have connected it to helping a lot of things, but it's not as bioavailable as some other things. It doesn't get absorbed well into the system. So the question on some of the studies and whether or not it's useful is, did enough of it get into the system and get absorbed? Sprinkle it in the rice, make that yellow rice, that works. Traditional, culinary uses, of course, in a lot of the Indian sauces, which us people in the U.S. tend to call curries, but the Indian spice mixtures that they use, they call masalas, are almost all of them have some turmeric in there. They have some other things as well. It's also in mustard, to color mustard.
Especially the bright yellow mustard.
Yeah.
Yep.
The bright yellow mustard has turmeric in it. What I didn't know was that you can actually cook and eat the shoots and the flowers of turmeric as well. And you make them like other vegetables. I believe that is commonly done in Thailand. And in Indonesia, they use the leaves as a seasoning primarily for fish. So
fish with turmeric is really traditional in India. Steamed fish and turmeric usually, it's because it is a milder flavor and you can still taste the fish through it. Yeah, I like ginger. The one thing that's I'm having a hard time finding in Michigan is galangal, which is it's called lesser ginger, and it's larger than ginger and milder. And so you have galangal, ginger, and turmeric are sort of your three big Asian roots that all probably have really good health properties, but they're also wonderful to cook with. Powdered is okay on all three of those, but in reality, the fresh is just amazing if you can grate it or julienne it.
A lot of spices and everything. The powdered spices just lose their flavor and they lose their potency. But the other spice that's in that family is cardamom. It's in the same family as turmeric and ginger and galangal.
Because cardamom, you always use the pods. I must have a root. I wonder if you can use the root. And there's two types of cardamom. There's black cardamom, which is a really big pod and heavy, and it's usually smoke dried, so it's slightly smoky, and that's used in meats and stews. And there's the green cardamom pods, which we use in our baking more so, and and it's very fragrant versus the black cardamom.
Yeah. Hi, Aim High. Nice to see you here. Fellow, I don't know if you're still in Ann Arbor, but ex-Ann Arbor, right? Anyway, so turmeric, along with a lot of these other spices that we're talking about today, have been used traditionally in China, India, Southeast Asia for a long time in food as well as in traditional medicine. So the biggest ones, turmeric is an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, has often been used to treat allergies, arthritis, diabetes, a lot of things that have to do with inflammation issues. I've seen traditional uses for jaundice and gallstones. I didn't see, hi Helix.
Hello.
And hi to family. Did I miss you? But yes, so it has been used traditionally for jaundice and gallstones, but I have not seen too many studies on that. Now, of course, with 70 plus reviews, I did not go through all of them. It's been used traditionally to treat colds and coughs and used as a digestive aid, topically for antibacterial, antifungal, although it turns the skin yellow. So, you gotta watch that.
Which makes me wonder if it's a treatment for jaundice. Are you just covering it with darker yellow than the jaundice so you can't tell that?
Yeah, right.
Or is it causing your liver and kidneys to repair and release
There's
toxins?
actually a lot of studies on use related to kidneys. I did not see a whole lot related to the liver. But as far as anti-rejection for people who've had kidney transplants, it helps prevent the rejection of the kidney transplant, which was kind of interesting in a few studies there. It's also a blood thinner because it's antiplatelet clotting, which also means that if you bleed easily, you probably want to watch the amounts of turmeric you use. It lowers cholesterol. So there's a lot of traditional uses as far as confirmations of some of those uses. I did see quite a few studies there, and there seem to be complete ongoing. In fact, I actually, if you go to clinicaltrials.gov, you can look up different clinical trials that are active and recruiting, or those that have closed, or those that are about to start recruiting. So I just looked up curcumin, which is the active ingredient in turmeric. Can't talk anymore today. Sorry about turmeric. And I basically looked that up, and currently there are 37 active trials, clinical trials. That means in humans for different conditions, a variety of things.
So the bad news is they've closed the cinnamon challenge, and the good news is they've opened the turmeric challenge.
Yeah. So, well, turmeric and cinnamon seem like they're both pretty darn interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't take a cupful of either one of them.
And probably not straight. They do make turmeric pills. Now, one thing I did see out there is that there are some warnings that if you're going to take turmeric as a supplement in a pill, you got to really make sure it's coming from a good source, because it's not extremely regulated as a supplement. So you want to make sure it's tested, and there are reports that some cheap supplements have put other things in those pills, because turmeric, it's not horribly expensive, but to reduce the cost of it, they use fillers, including other things that make it yellow, which includes, the yellow food coloring that you're not allowed to use in Great Britain anymore. I'm not sure. I forget the name of it.
So yellow, I can't imagine why you'd need to use additional food coloring.
I know, right?
But really going out of your way there on a supplement to not do the right thing.
Yeah, I'm thinking that they're really cutting back on the turmeric and really overdoing
talc
the other
powder
things.
with yellow.
Yeah, so you got to watch that. You got to obviously get it from reputable source. But as far as studies go, there's a lot of studies on arthritis and turmeric, as far as rheumatoid and osteoarthritis. There've actually been some studies that said that the active component curcumin works as well as NSAIDs for arthritis, but don't have the GI side effects. So so it's kind of interesting. Those studies are still fairly preliminary, but it ended up being fairly interesting. I mentioned the kidney transplant studies already. There's some preliminary studies, cardiovascular disease, especially in relation to cholesterol levels and reducing total cholesterol and reducing LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, but increasing the HDL. So that was kind of interesting. And there's multiple studies on that, but they're fairly small still. So they are clinical. There are human studies. A lot of these other things, especially with cinnamon and stuff, was a lot of animal studies. And then GI issues as far as inflammatory bowel conditions, IBD, IBS, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis. It seems to decrease the inflammation there. So there's a lot of things along those lines. Noah's Ark doesn't want to turn yellow. It's funny. Sorry. Helix, you're in the way.
I don't want to turn yellow either.
Helix, no. I think his black would not allow that. I actually saw your article yesterday that said turmeric isn't as fabulous as they say, and that's par for the course. Always a naysayer. Well,
It's definitely not. I mean, people think every new item is the new wonder drug that's going to cure everything, and
no,
none of them are.
None of them's going to cure everything,
sure.
but it does seem to have its uses. It's primarily, most of the studies have focused on the antioxidant and anti-inflammatory aspects of it. But there are a lot of cancer studies out there right now as well. So it is kind of an interesting one as far as, I mean, I did see one study that started looking into what I originally wanted to see, was its effects for radiation therapy, as far as actually what I saw was the reduction in fatigue from radiation therapy in cancer patients. But it was just one study. So again, as far as looking into it, as far as side effects and things, there really wasn't a whole lot. At high doses, it seemed to cause a rise in liver enzymes for some people and suppress the platelet activity. So as far as, the bleeding issues. So it also might exacerbate anemia in people who have iron deficiency or chronic anemia. So those were the main things. Actually, I pulled those from some of the studies of the side effects. There was some note that it might cause GI issues, but there's a lot of studies saying it actually helped prevent.
I mean, people put so much turmeric in a lot of different world cuisines almost on a daily level.
Yeah.
It seems like it would be pretty minimal on
the GI
bothering
issues.
The stomach.
And people take it to, one of the causes to take it is to prevent nauseousness. So, I mean, it's kind of interesting.
It's a powder. Anytime you're dealing with a powder versus fresh, you have the issue of causing stomach upset because of small dried particulates cause indigestion for some people. But that's really a source of the process, not the product. So, and if you look at, actually, I don't know, we talked about, but when you use most of these things, you make curries and stuff, you always sweat them out in oil. I have some old videos. I don't know if we have them posted. When I was cooking in Trinidad with some families, and we cooked with some Indian families doing traditional Trinidad cuisines and making curries and
those ended up being still pictures. Because we got our video camera the second trip to Trinidad.
But I can tell you that a lot of the when you make a curry, first of all, if you think about the foods in a curry, be it an Indian or Southeast Asian or whatever, even a lot of the African cuisines. It starts with cumin and coriander, turmeric, ginger, garlic, onions, a whole variety of other, allspice and other darker spices are, depending on the region, are added in there. So you could have like a traditional Indian curry, a masala has between usually like 13 and 30 items. But they're always sweated out in oil first. All the powders or fresh items are ground. They're put into oil at a fairly high heat and they're cooked out, and that's because you're removing the oil soluble flavors and probably the chemicals. You're drawing that out and you're developing the flavor, but I think you're getting into, and then you usually hit it with hot liquid, broth or water, and as a boil up, and so then whatever vegetables or meats and things are in, but that starts to form your sauce and cook it out before it burns, of course. But you're actually releasing now your water-soluble and your oil-soluble flavors as well as your other compounds. And so probably, I could say accidentally, but probably purposefully, the reason we cook for these items, aside from they taste good, is you've developed a natural, ongoing form of regular homeopathic medicines that, when needed, become helpful. And when they're not needed, as long as you don't way overdo it, they're just there. So curry is a pretty interesting process and not that difficult, but we tend not to do it very well until we learn how to do it from somebody who's been cooking curry most of their life.
Yeah. And they don't even call it curry. No.
Every dish has its own thing. Every spice blend, every family, we call it curry, but
we call all the Indian sauces curry, it seems. But
all food causes cancer. Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
Water causes cancer. There's free radicals. Everything causes cancer, and eventually we break down and die. But in between, then we can slow it down a little bit, and and but yeah, sure.
Aging causes cancer too, for that matter, and we don't try to prevent that.
But organic food's probably better than. Sometimes I don't know if it makes a difference, but it definitely doesn't hurt, and sometimes I'm sure it makes a difference not to have all kinds of junk on your food.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd rather not even have the organic stuff on my food, for that matter. A lot of the organic sprays and stuff, I'd rather just go beyond organic. Personally, eat the food as is.
Do traditional or natural or beyond organic or whatever, and not worry about the politics of what stamps the big O organic
on the label
in Europe or here or whatever. Some of it's good and some of it's just paperwork. So.
But so aim high didn't help with your chemo side effects. It might depend on the person how well it's absorbed too, and that might be part of the issue with some of these studies and why some of them are conflicting. There's actually a lot of studies trying to figure out how to deliver it, at least the curcumin, again, not the whole turmeric, but the curcumin extract, how to deliver it where the body absorbs it better. So they are working on methods along those lines. But yeah, 80% of your immune system is your gut and your skin. Those two organs keep most of the bad stuff out, basically. Lungs as well. Okay. Okay, please. Okay. What was that? Anyway, thank you for deleting that. Kids. Okay. Yeah, I get that. Aim high. Kids in the background can be distracting, absolutely. So, thanks, Wholesome Roots. I agree. Any food.
Somebody got lost. They made a wrong turn. Ended up at the wrong house.
Yes.
So.
Any food you could grow is good for you, better than store-bought. You could grow or get locally from farmers and what you do. It's traveled less. It's just in general probably better for you and better on the environment. Plus, it just makes sense. Why are we trucking food all the way across the country when you can grow it, a lot of food where you are? Now, of course, do we use foods that are from across the world? We do. I mean, what do we have? Just this morning, we had, avocado on our huevos rancheros this morning, which posted a picture of today. Yeah, thank you. I will actually do that. Wholesome Roots, thanks. But let me see if I could do this. That work? Yep, you should be a moderator now, Wholesome Roots. Thanks, because Coco Noel's not here today. And I have Finite World, but it's hard for one person to moderate everything.
Well, and it's funny because there's a balance. There's sort of coming from the chef world. There's three things going on right now. We started out with we need local, we need organic, or we need natural, or the best. Basically we need things that are fresh. Fresh is always best. The fresher, the better. The more healthy, but also the more flavorful. Then we moved to the idea of source, and some people talk about. Just getting the best stuff from the best places with as few people and as little time in between receiving that as possible. That's, of course, sometimes involves a lot of money.
Yeah.
Sometimes you choose not to get certain things because of price and availability. That's sort of market. And then the interesting thing that's going on right now is sort of the discussion of small and local, and that the Dan Barber kind of premise that we also have to be careful that everybody says, well, it's got to be local, it's got to be this, it's got to be that, but then we forget about our grain farmers, we forget about our core farming areas, and that we need to focus on getting things from wherever it's best handled from whoever. And if we can shorten that pathway, because it makes sense, it's smarter, it's easier, and it's cheaper, but focusing on getting the best products and not blocking out anybody. So if somebody can do it well on a big level, it's okay too.
Yeah.
We don't have to all be little independent homestead growing. So.
And Wholesome Roots, I did see some studies where they were looking at delivery of curcumin in supplements, where they did actually have extract from black pepper in there to help it be absorbed. So I did see that. I don't know if it always has to be used together or that was just basically what helped in the supplements, because you're not cooking your supplements in oil to extract, to help it absorb better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if that's the only way it would be absorbed. I did see that in some of the in the studies where they were actually using curcumin and extract from black pepper, and I can't remember the name of it.
We always advocate that you season everything with salt and pepper.
Salt and pepper.
As I tell students all the time, seasoning, it's salt and pepper, or at least salt, or maybe some sugar. It could be a seasoning. And people go, seasoning, it's not spices. Spices are flavorings, but season everything. So yes, we'll season our turmeric for sure.
Yeah, well, we love our curries. I love my Thai curries. I love my Indian food in general. I just love food from around the world.
Yes, I would always saute most of your spices, dry or fresh. Fresh is a little easier to get the flavors out, but your ginger, your garlic, your onions, your turmeric, all of that stuff, I would definitely begin with at least a light sweating in oil, if not a saute or a color, depending on what the flavor you want. But that oil brings the flavor. You bring the flavor into the oil, and then you bring the oil into the liquid, or the oil becomes emulsified in the liquid, and you carry flavor. And that goes for a lot of cooking. That's why we use oil as heat transfer to get the heat from the pan to the item, but we also need it to develop the flavors and bring the flavors to our mouth. So sweating, sauteing, searing, developing the color is our primary flavor builders, other than extended stewing for 3 or 4 hours, which also brings out flavors.
Yeah, well, anything cooking related. Well, you might have to argue with the chef about how much salt, but if that pasta you made or your husband made was that salty, that must have been a lot of salt.
He must put a lot of salt in there, yeah.
Because usually most of it washes out with the water.
The way we work with it is, first of all, the amount of salt that you use to season, highly season, is a different amount of salt as when you use it therapeutically or medically. So it is a higher level, and so there will always be a fight between nutritionists and chefs, because chefs are focused on creating a top-notch flavor. Now, using fresh product appropriately is going to bring more flavor. Salt will eventually cover it up. But seasoning with salt, if you want to get maximum flavor and you're not concerned about having a little bit higher salt level, you want to keep seasoning something until it makes your mouth water. At the point that your mouth begins to water and you salivate, that's a good indication that you physiologically put enough enhancer of salt into something that you're at peak level. Now, if it starts becoming to taste sweet, you've gone overboard. Salt is perceived as sweet, and then you're in trouble, because you got to figure out how to pretty much double your item or back up your salt on it. But that's how we teach seasoning on a professional level, and you progressively do it, usually with broths, starting with a neutral, unsalted chicken stock until you get it to a consommé, and it becomes highly salivating, and then we go, that's it. And then we make them over-season it, and we go, that's over-seasoned, you screwed it up. And so you have to do that for a while.
Yeah.
But you also, the more salt you use, you do get somewhat sensitized to it. So people that cook with very little salt and focus on the flavor, primary flavors, will not need as much salt, whereas somebody that cooks with more salt will crave more enhancer to a level. So you can bring your salt down very low and still get good flavor, but other people may not perceive it that way.
And does heat destroy the nutrients? Some nutrients are
general,
heat. Well, it depends.
Not everything.
Not everything. Some nutrients are more heat stable than others. Curcumin does not break down too much with the heat. So that is one.
Minerals don't break down with
minerals
heat.
Don't break down.
They are natural, like metals and other things. Minerals, basically,
they're already broken down as far as they could go, basically.
Yeah, they've come out of the earth. Vitamins, you've got to look and see, are they water soluble, oil soluble, are they heat tolerant?
Yeah.
and that be on how you're using them therapeutically.
What heat can do, if you're talking on the chemistry level of things, is heat can break bonds. Certain types of bonds more often than others. Certain bonds hold stronger than others. So there's certain nutrients that are not, like, if you're talking about minerals, that's just one compound, one element at a time. So it doesn't have anything to break down.
That's, iron, vitamin B, the niacin, some of those things are they're really coming out of earth, out of soil. And we're not talking about the humus and the live, active, compostable, well, some of it's compostable, but we're talking about that, elemental stuff. And that really doesn't break down.
The vitamin C does.
Very quickly
with heat. So it just depends on what nutrients you're talking about. So eating a combination of cooked and not
cooked and raw. And so when you have raw, you also get, so you got vitamins, you got minerals, you got phytochemicals, which are plant chemicals, you've got micro and macro chemicals, and then you have enzymes. And so enzymes pretty much between about 135 or so, they're pretty much gone.
The enzymes are
by 160 some, there's almost no enzyme activity. A lot of the proteins break down. So some of those things can be generally good for our health. And that's where we want to eat minimally cooked or raw, because there are things that we can absorb that are useful. On the other hand, raw items are the most dangerous because there are a lot of things that if we cook them, they become safe. And if we don't cook them, we're absorbing bacteria and viruses and other things that would otherwise be damaged. So, raw is good, but raw is also hard to digest. So a combination of cooked and raw might be the middle ground might be one of the better ways to eat, although everybody eats however they seem like works best for them. Turmeric in a smoothie, sweet. You can put sugar against turmeric.
I don't think I haven't seen anything that says it blocks the how it's absorbed. Because, technically sugar is water soluble, turmeric is oil soluble. So as far as, I doubt they necessarily block each other, but I haven't actually seen that in the studies at all. But again, there's so many studies that
But turmeric is a nice flavor in a somewhat sweetened yogurt or a smoothie or with dairy, even in warm dairy drinks, because turmeric has a earthy, it has an earthy flavor to it, and it melds nicely with other things. It's sort of a background flavor. So if you were to sweeten it into a little bit or a lot, I think you get a really nice background. And I have seen it. In fact, I was working on some smoothie recipes and some other things this week for some projects. And so those are things that we're kind of looking at. How do you put good items into some nutritional smoothies? So yeah, I would encourage trying it. I think it will do just fine, and it will not be really. Even ginger is way more spice. It doesn't have the bite and the spice. It's just a little bit on fresh turmeric, and dry doesn't have it at all. So ginger's way harder to work with in a smoothie, and we do that all the time.
Yeah, and as far as salt helps nutrients enter the cells, it again depends on the type. It helps calcium enter the cells. Absolutely, there are sodium calcium channels that work together, but as far as all nutrients, it depends on the type. Calcium is an element that's broken down to its simplest form, that it's also ion, so it needs its balance to get into the cells.
Alcohol is a lot of times used to help introduce things. That's why cold syrups have small doses of alcohol in them.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. It seems like mercury does a really good job of letting things get into your system.
Too much?
But I think we're trying to remove. Works really well for paint. You get great colors in paint. Lead and mercury, volatile metals work really well. Unfortunately, they're extremely toxic. So
yes, I wouldn't try that.
So we really don't want to use those in our body.
No. How does turmeric taste in a smoothie? I've never had it in a smoothie. Have you tried it?
I haven't per se in a smoothie, but it's. Like I said, it's earthy, very fresh. It's very, very lightly spicy. It's like a very subdued version of ginger and the spice, but more earthy. There's another similar root that's much larger than ginger. It's called galangal, and I find galangal has some similar flavors to it. But there is some sweetness because there's some carbohydrates in the root. So yeah, it's overall very tasty. Some people may not like it, but I don't think it's offensive for most.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Wholesome root turmeric kind of takes on whatever other flavors you're working with, which is part of the reason why I don't like the yellow commercial curry powder, because whatever's in there, I don't like the other stuff.
Well, that's other flavors. Some of
it's
that
not the turmeric,
is,
it's the other stuff.
Fenugreek can get weird flavors sometimes, but there's a lot of things ground into a pre-made curry, so...
And to live is to suffer. No, we have not done our greenhouse projects. Just didn't have time this year, but we have 2 greenhouses now that we're thinking about. One that's going to use the old windows and one that's not. So eventually I did find some stuff to take off the old paint, and I'll repaint those windows.
The windows are still behind the barn, and we've got a big can of stripper in there that's hopefully not degraded by being frozen. I'm not sure if it should have been.
I might have to.
It might have needed to be brought into the house.
We probably forgot about it out there. Yeah. We have a few more people in here. That African homestead. Really, where in Africa are you?
Where would I find turmeric to plant? We have it at our local grocery store. Interestingly, because it's become so crazy popular in nutritional drinks, teas, smoothies, etc. That
Liberia.
Oh,
cool.
Wow.
So as far as in Liberia, where to find it? Basically, if you find the root in the grocery store or in the market,
I'm sure a market will have it.
I'm sure you would
guarantee it has it.
It's got to, because it's got to grow well in that area. It's not native to that area, but you basically you want to grab it.
Yeah, I can show you. I have some really tiny. I took the tiniest nubs that I could buy at the store for planting, but just in the last year or so, our local Myers is carrying it, and they're carrying a lot of it because so many people are putting it in nutritional drinks, and you never saw it 3 years ago fresh in the store.
So, yeah, I mean, you just take the rhizomes. You basically take this root and put it shallow in the ground, and I've been reading on that, too, because I want to try to grow it, and he picked a bunch of little ones up.
So these are an inch and a half, but they can be quite a bit larger. Let's say they're half the size or a third of the size of ginger. They look just like ginger,
they have these
for their
little
bright orange.
Yeah, they'll have like. Do you have the other one, or you use the other one, the big one?
We might have used it. I think we used it.
Okay, he cooked with some of this already.
Oh, I got some here.
But a bigger piece is. People coming from the U.S. every few months. I'm not sure about the whole. Can you cross borders?
But this turmeric is not a U.S. thing. We're probably importing it.
So basically, it kind of grows like that.
The ginger's from Peru. So this is a very small piece of ginger, by the way.
This is ginger. This is turmeric. The main difference is you can see the color.
And we're talking a very small, young ginger. So ginger's usually twice that size.
But we're going to take these probably in the next week or two. Take these and put them in 12-inch pots. They spread out, and the plants get quite big. They could get 3 to 5 feet tall. But you can use the leaves, you can use the stems, you can use the flowers, and the roots are what most people use.
Yeah, it grows like ginger, exactly. And I'm sure there's all kinds of veggies. It's somewhat tropical and definitely warm, so if you keep it hydrated,
tropical.
You want to keep it, as long as you can keep it wet, it'll grow.
It has to be well drained, but
it doesn't
in a
like
moist,
great soil.
It likes a moist environment.
Yeah.
So if it's very dry, I don't know the climate in Liberia that well, so if it's really dry there, you might have to try to find a way to keep it moist. But that
would be an awesome thing to put in a garden, and most places you can do it during a summer that's relatively hot, even if you have to take it out and replant every year.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about doing that here in the pots inside, and then in colder climates you can put it outside and in the ground once it's above 60 degrees, but if it drops below 60 degrees it doesn't do so well.
I used to, so the Asian markets are the best place to find it, Indian and Asian markets. Any other diverse produce market that just has tons of world produce. I used to buy it at a big produce market in Atlanta years ago. They had turmeric and galangal and ginger. I can't remember the place. It was on the north end of Atlanta, outside of Alpharetta, and I used to love to go to that place. And I just can't remember the name of it. But now, all of a sudden, Myers, which is sort of it's a large but kind of a normal grocery store, they're carrying it, and so yeah.
I mean, if you have people coming over from New York City,
Rose should do a video on it. Wholesome Roots.
Absolutely, that would be awesome.
I got a trivia question for Wholesome Roots also.
What's that?
You know, it's not DeKalb Farmers Market. It's a private place. It's this huge warehouse. It was called like Bob's or something. I can't. It was crazy. I loved going there years ago. The quiz questioner is: does Rose know what Crohn's, the root Crohn's is?
The root Crohn's. I know what the disease
Galangal.
is.
Yeah, Galangal's wonderful.
Yeah. Planted that.
No, not Crohn's the disease. Crohn's
Yeah, I know.
the root.
I know the disease.
It's the French Crohn. It looks.
It looks like it?
The biggest ones are like this size, and the other ones are half that, but it's a little more knobby. It almost looks like a white worm, and it's a little crunchy root. And I was just wondering if anybody knew what it was. We used to use it in some really specialized salads and some crazy cooking. And I can tell you, if anybody knows what it is, I can tell you what it's related to. It's kind of crazy.
Okay, so Liberia's... I was trying to remember exactly where in Africa Liberia is, because my geography...
I think Tumeric will do
Rainforest,
great.
yes. It should do great, because it's native to the tropical areas of Asia, and it's been being propagated in other tropical areas. So you should probably be in the ideal setting to grow turmeric, which is kind of cool. I'm jealous.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just on behalf of all of us, we'll apologize for our president, because obviously you've got some nice things growing there that he doesn't know about.
Oh my gosh, let's not go into politics, please. So how do you spell it? Turmeric has too many R's in it. I keep forgetting them, so if I dropped them, I realize I dropped it. It's Turmeric.
And some people pronounce it Tumeric.
Or is it Crohn's you're asking about?
Oh, Tumeric.
Yeah.
Crohn's is, I think, Crone, or it's a crone or multiple
like an old woman.
Yeah, maybe that's why, because it's kind of wrinkly.
Crohn's root from Bet.
What's Bethany or butt?
I don't know. That's spelled more like the disease Crohn's.
Yeah, that's spelled like the disease. I believe it is not spelled. I believe it's Crones.
Crohned. I don't know. I'd have to do a search for it. Crohn. Yeah. Anyway, is it? Yeah, I'm not sure. So we'll have to look that up. But something you found.
I'll tell you, the crone is a root that's harvested. It's related to the mint family, so it comes off of like a mint root. And it grows crazy, and it's this very mild root that tends to get picked in the late fall or winter in France. And people put it in salads or they saute it. It's got extremely minimal flavor, almost no flavor at all. It's got like a crunch to it, almost like a water chestnut type crunch. And Chinese artichoke. No, here. Chinese artichoke Crohn's. But it comes out, I didn't realize it's related to it's an Asian mint. It has like a mint leaf, and once you plant it, you can't get rid of the darn thing. Pull them up in handfuls, but you can saute them, and it's a delicacy. Chinese artichoke, yeah, Crohn's, Crones. That's what I.
Yeah.
And mother, no, that's yeah. Oh, they're also spelled Cros. Oh yeah, Crosnes. Yes, I've seen it that way. That's the correct way. And there's something on Mother Earth News on that. So
yeah. That's kind of cool. Anyway, learn new things. I can't believe you asked right after we talked about it on Tuesday.
What's that?
Bethany is the plant name.
For edible corn?
Oh. It's a plant with an edible corn. Hold on.
Oh. Well, I was packaging pasta. I was listening, but I'm not sure if I caught everything.
Talked about it on Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday. I wasn't there on Tuesday.
Where on Tuesday? I missed something. Anyway. Here it goes. Has to be the same thing. Let me see. Bethany. I don't know. Because I'm looking something up here. Wood bishop or bishop's wort is the same thing. French name, Betuan. It's German. I think that's different from the Chinese one. But you talked about it on Tuesday with Farmer Friends.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's the spelling. Crones. Yes. It's been a while since I've had it on a menu. I don't have easy access to it here. It's becoming more popular, though, and I was using it about 10, 12 years ago, regularly on some menu items.
I'm trying to do an internet search while we're online. It's growing. Let me see if I can pull a picture up.
So talking about funny roots, it fits right in there. And I think it has some healthful properties.
I'll have to look it up. Oh, yeah, it does look funny.
It looks like a wormy thing, but they're very cool.
It looks like a grub.
Yeah, it looks like a grub. And we use them specifically just because they looked cool, and they have a nice crunch to them. But it's very much a French delicacy. So raw, it has a light
I don't know if I'll be
flavor.
able to link this, but I'm going to see if I
I
can.
bet you can.
I'm looking it up on Mother Earth News, but my internet's being extremely slow on pulling up the webpage. We'll see if it works. Anyway, I don't know. They said it's Chinese, and the other one looked European. I'm going to try to link this.
Yeah, I bet you can cut and paste it. There you go.
I don't know if that'll form a link. There it goes.
It does. It
Awesome. It doesn't for some people, but for the...
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway.
Anyways, rare item. Look up Crohn's. It's interesting. Just be
It's
careful.
fun.
Once you plant it, it's like other things. You'll never get it out of your garden, so put it somewhere where
Well, you know
want
what it
It's
is.
a good ground cover
Yeah.
because it looks like mint, basically. I think,
It's
so.
in the family. But, you know what it is half the stuff that they call invasive seems to be nitrogen fixers.
Well, it is, I'm sure it is. The biggest problem, though, is if you want it gone and you want to keep it reined into a small area, it's like sun chokes
Yeah.
and other things are just going to go wild on you. But you can keep harvesting them.
Yeah, it's in the mint family. So it might be some... I don't know. I don't know if it's the same thing. I didn't see those two names in the same place yet. But anyway.
It looks like mini Michelin men is one comment.
Oh my
sort
gosh.
of.
Oh yeah, on the... Okay. So anyway, it is 9 o'clock already. I'm not sure exactly how that happened so fast. But
We've got to play Stump the Master Gardener more often. Although that's hard to do.
how'd you do a link in live chat? You can only do it if you are the host of the live chat or one of the moderators. You can't do a link in the live chat otherwise on other people's chats. So that's why it worked. And that's why when Finite World linked the playlist, which you guys should check out because Wholesome Roots has a video in our playlist too. But definitely check that out. And absolutely, Two Family Homestead. Tomorrow night we're going to be on Two Family Homestead's live show. Tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So you can come on and join us there. And ask us whatever you want. We may be approaching homesteading from a slightly different angle than average homesteader out there. So feel free, especially if you have cooking questions, you can ask him.
Well, I think homesteading is probably like what we say in the kitchen. If you've got 3 chefs, there's at least 4 opinions on any one topic or how you do
Absolutely true.
So.
Absolutely true.
So.
But, I mean, our main focus, if you guys haven't noticed, is anything food related, basically from growing to gathering to having animals, well, what we can do for animals, which are poultry, and anything to do with keeping them happy and healthy and stuff, and then all the way through the prepping and cooking. So I guess, we took, well, at least especially I do, and I think our homestead is focused around, we're not urban, but we're outside of a,
we are not in an extremely, we're
on residential
the edge of a rural, we're beginning into a rural area. So we have the wonderful aspect of being near a medium-sized town and being right into a very rural farming area. But we do look at, food, it's sort of food, what we want to grow, what's fun. It's sort of a playground and a play box, a sandbox of things. We've always treated our garden that way. Some of it is about sustainability or good growing, good conditions, great product. Obviously, if you can cut money or you can do other things, we're all for it. But we look at a lot of it as exploring the wonderful and amazing things that are out there, and how can we kind of get our
What
hands
are
on
the
them
uses? What are the uses?
and understand
food-wise?
them better. So.
And the other thing, I mean, the reason why I started doing this herb of the week thing is because I just found it interesting on the medical side of things, because I'm a genetic counselor. So I'm not a doctor. I am not studied in herbal medicine or anything like that. But my thought is, as I learn about it, as I look things up, I have access to scientific journal articles, and I can look some things up that way and try to find it interesting on comparing how things are used traditionally, and if there are studies, what types of studies and what they've confirmed, and what direction things are headed in. Because one study is not one to prove something. It's basically if you can look at it multiple ways. So that's kind of what I'm doing with this herb of the week thing. I don't claim to say anything is definitely healing of its, these different claims, but these are the different things I've seen. So it's just kind of interesting topic.
In the food world, there's been a lot of movement towards functional food, food as medicine, food as potential medicine, avoiding bad food, bad for us food, badly prepared food that has negative effects because of consumption or conditions that it was handled in. But then food is medicine, and how can we maintain, repair, and sustain our bodies, and treating it. I don't like the idea of every meal is medicine. It's medicine, it's medicine. Of course it has an aspect. But do we understand that there are things we can eat repetitiously or in certain circumstances that have some promotional effects? I think that's really something that we forgot for 100 years or 50 years more in the United States, although much of the world has always looked at it that way, because we draw food traditions from all over the world. We don't really have our own set. We just begged, borrowed, and stole them. And a lot of times we had people so displaced, they lost their ability to do their native traditions. So we didn't really have a route to food as medicine or herbiculture type things. So I think we're starting to recognize that, even though everybody else has been doing it all along. We found an interesting book, by the way, just hauled out that we haven't read. I think it's right here.
Yeah, at my parents' house.
No idea what's in it, but more than 3 million copies sold. Folk medicine by a doctor, and it was in
Jarvis.
1859. So what we were interested in is that was right on the edge. Well, between the 20s and the 50s is where we had a strong separation between herbal and folk medicine and clinical chemical medicine.
Yeah.
So in that an MD was writing a book on folk medicine, we're
In
just
the 50s,
curious what was out there, and what he knew or didn't know, because he has a different perspective. Sort of like as we lost heirloom products, we might have lost some herbal things. So this doesn't go back that far. It was a freebie that we ran across, and so
it was in my dad's garage.
Yeah, so we might poke around and see if there's anything fun in there, or anything. Go, hey, we figured out a lot.
Yeah.
Years later, we figured out. We're going back to doing some old things. We don't know.
I'm not sure.
Definitely not an authoritative, necessarily an authoritative book. We're not, so.
Yeah, definitely. You have that book.
But look what it says. The cover says Nature's Secrets of Honey, Apple Cider Vinegar, and Foods for Health. Yep. Jeez, I guess we're right back to that 50, 60 years later.
Right.
Although too much apple cider vinegar is not good for you.
Yeah, it seems to have been a very popular book in the 50s. So
3 million copies in 59 is pretty...
that's a big publish.
A good sell.
Anyway, yes, Wholesome Roots foraging. Absolutely. We're growing, foraging, raising chickens, and projects on building coops and all of that that goes with that. And then cooking.
There's a cat involved.
Helix seems to try to photobomb or video bomb all our live shows. So anything food related, from the outside, ground, natural, garden to our table. So that's kind of where I have a medical background, so that's kind of where I'm trying to tie some of this in, just learn a little more about it. So that's us. That's our perspective. And we'll go from there. But anyway, if you guys join us tomorrow, you can ask us whatever questions you want. Join us tomorrow on Two Family Homesteads live show at 9 o'clock Eastern, and we'll see you guys there as well. But I think we should probably wrap up, because it's... What do you... Oh, you want to see how many people are in the room, don't you? 11 people in the room right now, but I think we're a little more earlier.
Oh, good. We're not talking to ourselves.
No, we're not talking to ourselves. But we'll see you guys tomorrow at Two Family Homestead, and we'll have a few more, probably 2 more videos come out this week. Have a good night, you guys. Take care.
Good night.